Dominic Izzo did a really interesting video I just watched recently. I think it was about false timing and true timing for strikes and this and that. Something he said was very interesting because it was the exact opposite of how I explained something. Because what I was calling a way of doing your arm like a whip, he was saying that was the exact opposite of a whip. And I got to thinking back further, like, oh, yeah, that's right. My background is learning about karate, and his area mostly is Wing Chun, and the way the punches come out are different. And the way I described before, the different parts of the arm, which I like the video of Michael J. White says your arm really starts way back here in this area. So you got your pretty much your shoulder, your elbow, your wrist, and your knuckles. Those are the four parts of your arm. Okay, whether it be from this position, from just standard out, you got it tucked in like right here, however you have it, maybe in kind of a really shallow stance, whatever. Those are still the four positions of your arm. Okay, I've talked about this, I've said this to other people about how to kind of use it like a whip, especially for my lead one right here. I use the term flicker jabs. I think I got it from Shane Faison. I heard, no, I might have, excuse me, I originally heard it from an anime. Later heard Shane Faison use it. And it was similar to something I was doing, which started from the idea of the karate style back fist that my father showed me. Ours is a way it's kind of like we'll flick at the end, we'll flick our wrist, just kind of boom. Everything kind of goes in this motion, has this kind of flick to it, instead of just hitting with the back of your fist or like that. That's just this stiffness to it that doesn't really have any like true good little snap pop to it, pretty much. But yeah, having all that to it. But anyway, so it was that I heard about Muhammad Ali using this thing similar to that. Turned out later they called that the flicker jab. It's more commonly seen today. I messaged or emailed Ramsey Dewey about this. He said, flicker jab from a Philly shell stance. Same thing seen from an anime, pretty much. Um, Now, I don't know if I mentioned before, I broke this arm right here years ago. So it's way easier to do it with this one than just that one right there. And you got to get this just right. You can't have this just this and then just at the last bit. You can't have all this stiff. It's really got to whoop, 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 boom. You really got to four parts kind of do the pow like a whip. Now, Dominic Izzo said, well, about if you the whole leading with your hand first thing instead of your body with your hip, pretty much type deal. Um, he said, well, a whip usually there's something that starts at the beginning of it, where it starts from back here, and into that. Well, this is mostly an arm punch. This flicker jab is mostly arm punch. And I never focus so much saying this is kind of like using your arm like a whip with the beginning of where it starts. Because he said, if it starts from the beginning, this is the risk with this, you do not throw your shoulder into this. I showed the thing to a person a while back, and I went from this, and at the end, my shoulder did something. It's like, oh, you do use your shoulder. That's like if I said there was a big old long rope, and there was this ball at the end, and the rope I need to get over something. If I didn't use the ball, I wound the rope all together, so when it all came together, it would have more stuff to get it where it's going. And even though, because I wound the rope up in all this front area, and this just happened to move the ball in, because you got all this weight in the front, pulling the weight in the back, pretty much, and the ball just happened to move, that does not mean the ball made that action happen, okay? The ball just moves because it's connected to it, okay? I'm not going to punch like that. So if I do that and my shoulder moves it in, Oh, you do use your shoulder. No, I'm saying the shoulder is in the equation of making the power come from here. It doesn't start here. Okay? What's that thing Greenville K martial arts said, Bruce Lee's thing? The hand starts a little bit second, then the body follows. Okay? So something I try to do a little more better, explain this better, is the hammer and nail thing. Okay? If you take a hammer and a nail and you just walk it up onto it, you're gonna get it in. And the true tip of the nail, I think of my knuckles. All right. A lot of times in some of my older getting close and stuff, I actually will punch the bag like this. My thumbs are tucked, this right here, and I make sure that when I hit, my knuckles touch more than my fingers. Like in between, let's camera here. In between where the end of it and the beginning, where my fingers start to rotate, in between there and there was just solid bone. That's the impact I want to make with, okay? That's why I want to make contact. I don't want something that's way back here, it's going to pull my wrist down. I don't want something that's too here, it's going to put pressure, because there's a small little bit where your digits connect to the beginning, what begins your knuckle. That if you break that, it's pretty easy to hurt, okay? So I try to make sure the part that's solid bone, because your knuckles, as far as I know, are solid bone, and then your metacarpal thing's right here. All right? Try to make sure that that lines up. Doing Ramsey Dillard or a similar thing with my dad, making sure your wrist is bent down a little bit before impact. Let's make sure it's that's more part of the whoop boom, whoop boom before the actual impact of it. Whoop bow. A little bit of a snap, a little flick at the end. Boom. I don't focus on the beginning part of the whip. That actually makes it worse. Like whoop and then whoop bow to that. Okay. I focus on the in-between part where it's kind of loose and then it's tight. That's why I was talking about the hammer and the nail thing. This is your nail, especially if people have big biceps that are a little bigger than my arms right here. This is your hammer. This starts it, okay? What do? You put the nail down the board first, and then you hit it with the hammer, right? Another way I look at this is the ball and chain mace, right? You got this chain, you got this ball in the end with these spikes, and you got this part right here, okay? You can't start with this part right here and sling it up. No. You have to have it in position to be like imagine I'm holding right now this right here. There's the ball, and I got to swing it this way, right? Well, arms ain't in that shape. This is in our position right here, okay? So because the fact that I don't want to start with this, I want to be less telegraphic. And I still want the weight to carry it, okay? Because this right here part, because once this goes, this is going to be like the chain part to it. Then everything gets tied at the end. That little bit of boom, okay? Boom, a tiny bit of body also, if you want to put that into it. There are different ways I try to explain this that I hope helps. Because the reality is your body does not resemble a hammer and a nail. Your body does not resemble a whip in any way as far as looking at it. And your body does not resemble a ball and chain mace. Alright? Your arm, you got your wrist, your knuckles, your elbow, this. None of this looks closest to that. Alright? So I really look at that in-between thing, like I said, the whip, where it's going from being loose to tight instantly. Where all that kinetic energy connects together. Just like with the hammer and the nail, just like with the ball and the mace thing. Anybody ever seen that thing with science where they got this ball and it hangs on a string? And instead of moving the top of the string to make the ball move, like the back of your arm, they make the ball move first. And they make it get this back and forth motion good enough that because, now obviously this is a little more different because the ball's usually way bigger than a string, that when it comes to it, everything, boom, is all connected at once. And creating that kinetic link pretty much, okay? And that's why I like using it with my arm. When people throw a haymaker like this, okay, one, their knuckles are never lined up. Otherwise, it's no longer a true haymaker. It's more of a long hook, does not exist, by the way. All right, and when they do this, all the weight that is going in this, because the way it's going, it's like you want to come over here, and this is just dragging. This is basically what happens, and that's why people are like, well, haymakers are a power move. Haymakers are the power move that is the stupidest thing to generate power, because all the power is stuck with the body. This is kind of just flapping like a noodle. Well, people have been knocked out by haymakers, man. People have been knocked out by arm punches. You don't think all this thing shooting forward, starting with this, and then you feel this, and then you feel this behind it, and then maybe a tiny bit of that body, all that going in one direct thing on one area is hitting that way more harder than all this surface area when all the weight's way over here or way over here. That is not all going forward directly. So yeah, interesting video did. This is a little bit different because, like I said, I practice these now, but I don't really see too much how I could really make this kind of it's kind of that snap. I mean, you could do that where you're bending this forward where you hit. You could make a whip like that. But still, though, just in general, this isn't to discredit Izzo at all. I just thought them similarities. But so many people could say this resembles this resembles that, blah blah blah. All I know is this works, and he probably knows that works, and that's all that matters. So, pretty much.